Chapter 5. The chamber opens. The laugh didn't echo. That was the first thing wrong. In a chamber this large, everything should echo. Every step, every breath, every lie. But that sound just existed. Close. Too close. Daniel didn't turn toward it. That was the second thing wrong. You heard that, I said. I've been hearing it longer than you have, he replied. That wasn't reassuring. The flames in the alcoves shifted. Not flickering. Leaning. Toward the center. Toward the circle. The air thickened. Not heavier. Denser. Like it had weight now. Emma's hand tightened slightly on my sleeve. It's opening, she said. I thought it was already open. No, she replied. This is different. The mark burned. Hard. Deep. Not pain. Pressure. Like something on the other side of my skin was pushing back. Daniel stepped backward. One step. Careful. Measured. They weren't supposed to start it without me, he muttered. That got my attention. You're not in control here, I said. His eyes flicked to mine. For the first time, uncertain. No, he said quietly. I'm not. That was when the circle moved. Not visibly, but I felt it. A shift beneath the concrete. A realignment. The dark lines cut into the floor began to pulse. Faint, then stronger. Not glowing. Drinking. The light from the flames stretched toward them, thinned, and vanished into the cuts like it was being pulled somewhere deeper. Lily grabbed Emma and pulled her back. Step away from it, she said sharply. Too late. The circle had already chosen its center. Me. The mark ignited. White. Blinding. I dropped again, not from impact this time, from force. Something pulled downward. Not my body. Me. The chamber vanished. No, it opened. And I was falling through something that wasn't space. Memory. But not mine. Voices. Too many. Layered. Overlapping. He's stable. No, he's adapting. That's not adaptation. That's hands. Not mine. On my arms. Holding me down. Symbols above me. Burning. Not carved. Floating. And then, her. Small. Still. On the table. Emma. No, not Emma. Someone before her. Something broke inside my chest. I didn't know, but the memory didn't care. It kept going. My voice. Again. Clear. Certain. Wrong. If it survives. We proceed. The world snapped. I was back in the chamber. On my knees. Breathing like I had just drowned. Emma was in front of me now. Closer than before. Too close. You saw it, she said. Not asking. I couldn't answer. Because now, I understood something worse than guilt. Participation. The flames surged. All at once. The alcoves lit fully, revealing what had been waiting in them. Not just men. Figures. Some standing. Some not. Bodies. Preserved. Not dead. Paused. Each one marked. Each one incomplete. They're the ones who didn't finish, Daniel said. His voice sounded far away. They tried, he continued. They all tried to stop it. And failed. Lily asked. No, he said. Worse. They hesitated. That word landed like a blade. I pushed myself up. Slow. Unsteady. The knife in my hand pulsed. Not with light. With direction. It wanted something. Or someone. The chamber groaned. This time, physically. Cracks spread along the outer edges of the circle. Not breaking. Opening further. Emma stepped forward. Don't, Lily said. Emma didn't stop. Of course she didn't. She was looking at the center. At the space I had just occupied. They're waking it wrong, she said. What does that mean? I asked. She didn't look at me. It means they're forcing it to choose. A sound rose from beneath the floor. Not mechanical. Not natural. Alive. Something moved under the circle. Not fast. Not slow. Deliberate. The men in the alcove shifted. Uneasy. That told me everything. They weren't in control either. Good. The chamber cracked open. This time, for real. A section of the circle split. Darkness surged upward. Not like smoke. Like depth. A shape formed within it. Not fully. Not yet. But enough. Tall. Wrong. Edges that didn't align with reality. And eyes. Not visible. But felt. Looking at me. Not Emma. Not Lily. Me. Of course. You came back unfinished, a voice said. Not from the figure. From everywhere. Layered. Broken. Old. I tightened my grip on the knife. Then finish it, I said. Lily turned sharply. What are you doing? I didn't look at her. Because I already knew the answer. What I should have done before, I said. The mark burned. The figure shifted. Interested. Emma grabbed my arm. No, she said. Not calm anymore. For the first time, afraid. If you step in there now, she said, you won't come back. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, I saw it. Not a child, not just what I left behind. Something holding itself together. Barely. Then don't let me stay, I said. Silence. Heavy. Final. The chamber pulsed. The thing beneath it waited. And for the second time in my life, I stood at the edge of the same choice. Only this time, I knew exactly what it would cost. End chapter 5, chapter 6. The first interruption the chamber chose. I felt it before anything moved. Before the flames bent. Before the thing beneath the circle shifted closer to the surface. It chose me. Of course it did. The mark burned white. Not pain. Claim. Emma's grip tightened on my arm. Don't, she said. Not calm anymore. Not certain. Real. That should have been enough. It wasn't. Because something inside me, something older than regret, leaned forward. Wanted this. Let go, I said. No, her voice cracked. That hit harder than anything else. Behind us, movement. The recall. They weren't waiting anymore. One of them stepped forward into the edge of the circle. Not cautious. Not afraid. Devoted. It recognizes him, he said. Another voice answered from the dark. Then finish it. The figure beneath the floor rose higher. Not fully formed, but enough to distort the air around it. Lily moved. Fast. She didn't go for me. She went for the circle. That was when I understood. No. I started. Too late. She stepped across the edge. Everything snapped. The chamber reacted violently. The flames flared blue. The symbols surged. The pressure in the air collapsed inward, then exploded out. The thing beneath the circle shifted. Not toward me. Toward her. Lily. She didn't look back. Of course she didn't. She never did. The knife in my hand pulsed. Hard. Like it had been waiting for this exact moment. Emma's voice cut through everything. She's doing it again. Again. That word hit wrong. What do you mean again? I demanded. Emma didn't answer. Because Lily did. I'm not letting it finish this time, she said. Her voice, steady. Too steady. The kind of voice that only comes from someone who has already made peace with the outcome. The recall moved. All at once. 2 rushed Lily. 3 came for me. Good. Finally something simple. The first man reached me. I moved before he finished stepping. Impact. He went down hard. The second came in low. Faster. Better. Still not enough. I broke his line. Turned. Dropped him. But the third didn't attack. He reached for Emma. That was his last mistake. I moved. Not toward him. Through him. Bone cracked. He hit the ground. Didn't get back up. Behind me. Lily screamed. Not from fear. From contact. The circle lit. Fully. Blinding white lines cut through the dark pattern. The thing beneath it surged upward, half-formed. Wrong. Pulling toward her like gravity had chosen a new center. She's interrupting it, Emma said. What does that mean? It means it has to choose again. That wasn't good. Because I knew what that meant. Choice. Again. The mark flared violently. The knife burned in my hand. Not metaphor. Real heat. Demanding. I looked at Lily. She was standing in the center now. Arms slightly out. Not resisting. Accepting. Like she had done this before. That was when it clicked. You've been here, I said. She didn't answer. You stopped it before. Still nothing. The truth sat there anyway. She had done this once. And failed. Or succeeded. Wrong. Get her out. Lily shouted. Not to me. To Emma. Emma didn't move. Of course she didn't. If she stays in there, Emma said quietly. She replaces him. The chamber went silent. Not empty. Listening. Replaces me? I asked. Emma looked at me. Eyes steady again. Too steady. She becomes the continuation. Everything stopped. Because now, it made sense. Not the system. Not the ritual. The choice. Someone always had to stay. That was the rule. That was the lie. The recall knew it too. They stopped attacking. Not because they were done. Because they were waiting. Waiting to see who would take the place. Don't, I said. To Lily. To myself. To the version of me that had already made this mistake once. She finally looked at me. And there it was. Not anger. Not blame. Relief. You weren't supposed to come back this far, she said. That wasn't what I wanted to hear. Move, I said. She shook her head. No, the figure beneath her rose higher. Its shape flickered. Unstable, hungry. The mark burned like it was tearing through my skin. The knife screamed in my hand. Not sound. Pressure. Command. Finish it. That was the word. Not from them. From me. Or what I used to be. Emma stepped in front of me. Small. Still. No, she said. Just that. And somehow, that mattered more than everything else. Because she wasn't telling me what would happen. She was asking. For the first time, she was asking. I looked at her. Then at Lily. Then at the thing rising beneath the circle. And suddenly, I understood the real difference. The first time, I didn't know what I was choosing. This time, I did. I stepped forward. Into the circle. The chamber exploded. The recall moved. Too late. The figure surged. Toward me. The mark ignited. Complete. And for 1 second, everything aligned. Past. Present. Choice. I saw it clearly. What I had started. What she had stopped. What they were trying to finish. And what Emma was. Not a survivor. Not a mistake. A break. A fracture in the system. The only thing that had ever interrupted it. You're not taking her, I said. Not to them. To it. The knife moved. Not guided. Remembering. I drove it into the center of the circle. Everything broke. Light collapsed inward. Sound vanished. The chamber folded. And Lily was thrown clear. The figure screamed. Not pain. Loss. The connection. Cut. Incomplete. Again. I hit the ground hard. The mark burned. Then dimmed. Then cracked. Not fully, but enough. Silence. Real this time. No movement. No voice. No pressure. Just the sound of breath. Mine. Lily's. Emma's. I looked up. Emma was standing over me. Eyes wide. Not calm. Not certain. Human. You changed it, she said. I shook my head slightly. No, my voice was rough. I interrupted it. Behind her. Lily pushed herself up slowly. Alive. Still here. That was enough. For now. But as I looked down at my wrist, at the cracked mark, I understood something worse than anything we had just survived. This wasn't the end. It was damage. And damage spreads. End chapter 6, chapter 7. After the break for 3 full seconds, nothing moved. Not the chamber. Not the flames. Not the men hiding in the alcoves. Not even the river beyond the walls. Then the first crack sounded. Not from the mark. From the chamber itself. A thin fracture raced across the floor from the center of the broken circle, splitting one dark channel into 2, then 3, then a web of branching lines that moved like something alive and newly angry. The old geometry had been interrupted. Now it was trying to correct itself. Up, Lily said. Her voice was rough. Not weak. Worse. The kind of rough that comes after a scream you never meant to let out. I pushed myself onto one knee. Every part of me objected. My left shoulder felt half separated from the rest of my body. My ribs burned. My palm was still wrapped tight around the knife, though I didn't remember deciding to hold on to it. The blade had gone dark. Not dead. Spent. Emma didn't help me up. She stayed exactly where she was, watching the floor, watching the cracks. They're changing, she said. No one asked who. No one needed to. The recall moved first. Not with the conviction they'd had before. This was different. No ritual poise. No patient certainty. Just trained men deciding whether survival outranked devotion. That made them more dangerous. The younger one recovered fastest. Of course he did. Fanatics always snap back hardest after disappointment. He stepped out from the alcove, blood at the edge of his mouth, eyes lit with the kind of faith that gets men buried young. You broke alignment, he said. I got 1 foot under me. Yeah. His expression twisted. Not rage. Blasphemy. Like I'd spat in the mouth of God and God had somehow failed to answer. You don't understand what you've done. That sentence is getting old. He lunged. No warning. No ceremony. This time it wasn't about the girl. It wasn't even about retrieval. This was punishment. I met him halfway. Too slow by a fraction. The fraction hurt. His shoulder hit my chest and drove me backward across the cracked edge of the circle. Pain lit up everything below my collarbone. I twisted late, got an arm across his throat, and used his own momentum to send him hard into one of the broken channels. He hit the floor badly, but not badly enough. The broad-shouldered one came next. Silent as before. Efficient as before. Only now there was something else in him. Urgency. That was useful. Urgent men make short choices. I let him commit, shifted inside his line, and drove the pommel of the remembering knife into the hinge of his jaw. Bone gave. He stumbled. I took his knee. He dropped. Still dangerous. Less mobile. Good. Behind me. Lily said, Daniel. I turned just enough to see him. He hadn't moved from the far side of the chamber. That was wrong. Men like Daniel move when a room stops obeying them. He was still standing at the edge of the broken geometry, eyes fixed not on me, not on Lily, but on the cracks spreading outward through the floor. You knew this could happen, Lily said. Daniel answered without looking at her. I knew something would. That was not the same thing. And Lily knew it. Her face hardened with a kind of fury that had been aging in her for years. Did you bring us here to stop it, she asked, or to see what it would choose? Now Daniel looked at her. For the first time since we entered the chamber, he looked tired enough to be honest. Yes, he said. The word landed harder than a confession should have, because it wasn't one answer. It was both. The younger recall man was back on his feet, bleeding, breathing hard, still devoted. Worst kind. He looked at Daniel like a son finally recognizing the weakness in his father. You said the bearer would submit. Daniel's face gave him nothing. I said he would come. The younger man's eyes shifted to me, to my wrist, the cracked mark, and something close to fear crossed his face. He cracked it, he said. Emma finally looked up. Not at me. At the men. You should leave, she said. No one listened. Of course they didn't. Men like this never hear warning until it sounds like screaming. The chamber gave another groan. Louder this time. Water moved somewhere deep behind the walls. Not trickling. Not pressure. Shifting. The river itself reacting to what we'd done beneath it. Dust drifted from the ceiling beams. One of the blue flames in the alcove guttered violently, then split into two. Smaller fires burning in opposite directions. That felt symbolic in a way I deeply disliked. Lily stepped toward me. Her hand came out, stopped just short of my chest. Not because she didn't want to touch me, because she wasn't sure what touching the mark might do now. Smart. Can you walk? She asked. Yes. You're lying. Yes. That almost made Emma smile. Almost. Wrong time for almosts. We need to move, Lily said. She's right, Daniel added. I looked at him. And now you care whether we get out? No, he said. Then, after half a beat, I care whether it does. The crack in the floor split wider. The dark material inside the cut channels had changed. Before, it drank light. Now it reflected something beneath it. Movement. Not on the surface. Deep. A current where no liquid should have been. Emma took one step backward. Small. Instinctive. It was the first involuntary movement I had seen from her all night. That chilled me more than the chamber. What is that? I asked. Emma answered. Leftovers. No one liked that answer. Least of all me. The younger recall man did something stupid. Again, he stepped into the widened break in the circle, as if faith alone could restore order to a machine older than language. He spread his hands slightly, blood on his mouth, reverence in every ruined line of him. It can still be corrected, he said. Daniel said, very quietly. No, the younger man ignored him. He looked at Emma. Not me. Not Lily. Emma. And for the first time, there was no devotion in his face. Only hunger. Bring her here. I moved before the last word finished leaving his mouth. So did Lily. So did the thing under the floor. The channel beneath the younger man's feet split open with a wet, tearing sound that had nothing to do with concrete. He had time for one expression. Not pain. Surprise. Then something from below caught his ankle. Not a hand. I don't know what it was. It moved like intent. Like a jointed shadow given permission to feed. He screamed. That part was human. Short-lived, but human. He clawed at the floor, at the broken channels, at the symbol lines that had meant salvation to him 10 seconds earlier. The broad-shouldered man grabbed for him. Almost got him. Then the chamber took more. The crack widened in a rush. Black depth surged up and in. The younger man disappeared to the waist, then the chest. He kept screaming until whatever had him learned where the rest of the sound came from. Then he didn't. Silence again. Not empty. Chewing. The broad-shouldered one staggered back, jaw crooked, eyes wide for the first time since I'd seen him. Good. Let him learn. Emma's face had gone pale. Not from the blood. Not from the death. From recognition. It's not supposed to wake like this, she whispered. Daniel heard her. His expression changed. Subtly. Fatally. He knew something. Of course he did. He always knew one layer too much and one truth too late. What did you hide? Lily asked. Daniel didn't answer. Daniel. Still nothing. I took a step toward him. My body hated it. Too bad. What did you hide? He looked at the shattered center of the chamber. At the cracks. At the place the younger man had vanished. And then he said the sentence that changed the room. The interruption didn't break the ritual. A pause. It divided it. Everything inside me went still. Not from shock. From understanding arriving too quickly. Emma turned toward Daniel. No, this time. She sounded like a child. That was somehow worse than her certainty. Lily stared at him. What does that mean? Daniel finally looked at her. At me. At the cracked mark on my wrist. At Emma. Choosing which truth would do the least damage. Failing. It means, he said, when he drove the knife into the center. He nodded toward me. He didn't end the continuation. Another beat. He gave it 2 paths. The chamber seemed to lean closer. Even the flames listened. One in him, Daniel said, and one in her. No one spoke. No one breathed. No one moved. Because there are truths so large the body stalls while trying to decide whether surviving them is worth the work. Emma's voice came first. Very small. That's not possible. Daniel's answer came with unbearable calm. It already happened once. I turned to Lily. She was already looking at Emma, not at me. That told me more than either of them had the courage to say. You knew, I said. Lily didn't answer. Not denial. Not deflection. Just silence. And silence, from Lily, had become the cruelest kind of confirmation. How much? My voice sounded strange. Thin around the edges. How much did you know? I knew the first interruption never ended it, she said quietly. I knew it displaced it. Her eyes finally came to mine. I didn't know it would split. That should have comforted me. It didn't. Emma stepped back another pace. Then another. Not from the chamber. From us. No, she said again. More force this time. Like saying it harder could repair the structure of the world. It was supposed to stop with me. Daniel's face tightened. There it was. Grief. Old, useless, expensive grief. That was the hope, he said. Hope. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because hope is what people call it when they build a bomb and pray it becomes a door. The broad-shouldered recall man moved toward the far stairwell. Retreat. Finally a sane instinct in the room. He got 3 steps before Emma looked at him. Just looked. No gesture. No raised hand. No word. The flame nearest him bent sideways so hard it flattened, then burst. Fire hit his coat. He slapped it at once, twice, panic finally making him clumsy. He disappeared into the dark beyond the alcove, burning and swearing and no longer relevant. I looked at Emma. She was breathing too fast now. Shoulders tight. Eyes huge. She hadn't meant to do that. I knew it. She knew it. Lily knew it. The chamber definitely knew it. Emma, Lily said gently. Wrong tone. Too late for gentle. Emma backed away until the cracked geometry was between her and all of us. The split wasn't supposed to happen, she said. It can't happen. It did, I said. She looked at me then. Really looked. And what was in her face was not fear of me. Not exactly. It was the terror of resemblance. The mark throbbed. A matching pulse ran through the broken floor. Emma flinched. At the exact same moment, pain lanced through my wrist. We both felt it. That was all the proof anyone needed. Lily closed her eyes for 1 second. When she opened them, the truth had settled into her like a wound she'd expected years ago. They linked you, she said. Daniel nodded once. Yes. How do we stop it? He did not answer immediately, which meant the answer was bad. Daniel. He looked at the chamber. Not at us. At this point, he said, you don't stop it. A beat. You choose which side becomes whole. That broke something in Lily. Not visibly. More dangerous than that. Her face went quiet in a way I had never seen before. Like every softer emotion had just been evicted to make room for function. No, she said. It wasn't loud. Didn't need to be. Lily's refusals never had volume. Only consequence. Emma was shaking now. Only slightly. But enough. The child in her had finally caught up to the architecture beneath the city. I took a step toward her. She moved back. That hurt more than it should have. Maybe because I deserved it. Emma. No, my name would have been easier. Refusal is more personal when it comes without one. I'm not giving you to them, I said. That's not the choice anymore. Her voice cracked across the chamber like thin glass. The flames jumped. The dark channels answered. And beneath the floor, something moved in approval. I stopped. Because she was right. And because hearing it from her made it impossible to pretend otherwise. Lily turned on Daniel. If you knew this could happen, why bring him here? Daniel's answer came without defense. Because if the chamber opened with the split unresolved, it would start reaching for both of them on its own. He nodded to the floor. To make them choose without understanding. I looked down at the broken geometry. At the dark current moving under the cuts. at the place where the younger man had disappeared. The chamber wasn't damaged. It was hungry, and now it had 2 names to learn. Then we leave, I said. Daniel laughed once. Tired. Bitter. Real. You think it ends at the door? No, I said. I think it gets worse if we stay. That, finally, no one argued with. The chamber gave another violent shudder. This time chunks of concrete dropped from the ceiling into the far side of the room. One of the old support beams let out a deep metallic groan that reverberated up through the floor and into the bones. The river was pressing harder now. Not flooding. Testing. Emma looked toward the tunnel we'd used to enter. Then back at me. Still afraid. Still furious. Still linked to me in some way I would have ripped out of the world with my hands if I knew how. Can you feel it? She asked. I didn't lie. Yes. What does it want from you? I looked at the cracked mark. At the knife in my hand. At the chamber that had once belonged to a version of me monstrous enough to call ambition survival. Then I said the only true thing left. To finish. Emma nodded. Too old for her face. It wants that from me too. There it was. Out loud. No more room for maybe. Lily stepped between us. Not to divide. To hold the shape of what still counted as a family. However broken. However temporary. However built from unfinished nights and terrible choices. Then we don't let either of you be alone with it, she said. The chamber cracked wider. The old support beam screamed. Somewhere in the tunnel behind us, a new sound began to move closer. Footsteps. Many. Measured. Not running. Not afraid. Daniel heard them first. Or maybe he recognized them. His face lost the last bit of color it had left. That's impossible, he said. No one in this story should have been using that word anymore. Who is it? Lily asked. Daniel did not answer. Which was answer enough. The footsteps entered the chamber before the people did. A patient rhythm. Leather on concrete. One set heavier than the rest. One dragging slightly, as if old damage had become part of the gate instead of a limitation. Then shapes emerged from the tunnel mouth. 5 of them. Not recall. Not guards. Not zealots. Something colder. They wore dark raincoats despite being beneath a river. Their hands were bare. Their faces gave away nothing. The one in front stopped at the edge of the chamber light and smiled when he saw me. Not friendly. Not surprised. Recognizing. You cracked it, he said. His voice was low and ruined at one edge, as though something had once cut through it and left just enough behind to be useful. Good. I had never seen him before. I was suddenly sure some older part of me had. Daniel stepped back. Actually stepped back. That was all I needed to know. About how bad this was. Who was that? I asked. No one answered. So the man did it himself. He touched 2 fingers lightly to the scar at his throat, then inclined his head a fraction too far to be respect. My name, he said, is what they used after yours stopped being safe to say. The chamber went dead silent. Even the cracks seemed to hold still. Beside me, Lily stopped breathing. Across from me, Emma whispered, No, and deep beneath the broken floor, the thing under the river stirred like it had just heard the first line of a prayer. End chapter 7, chapter 8. The man with my name. No one moved. Not me. Not Lily. Not Emma. Not even Daniel. The chamber held still around us, as if the entire structure beneath the river understood that what had just walked into the light mattered more than the broken ritual under our feet. The cracks in the floor no longer spread. They listened. So did I. The man at the edge of the chamber looked older than me. Not by much. Enough. Enough to suggest time had treated him differently. Or more honestly, the scar at his throat ran pale and rigid beneath the collar of his dark coat, a clean line that had healed without forgiveness. His hair was shot through with gray at the temples. One side of his mouth pulled slightly lower than the other when he smiled, as if an old injury had made mockery easier than symmetry. His eyes were the worst part. Not because they were cold, because they weren't. They were familiar. I had seen those eyes before. Not on him. On myself. In mirrors I'd stood too close to. In windows after nights that had gone bad and never properly ended. In the face of a man who had spent too long turning survival into a religion. You're staring, he said. My hand tightened on the knife. So are you. Of course I am. He took one step forward into the fuller light of the chamber. Water darkened the shoulders of his coat. His boots were wet with tunnel runoff and something darker that had dried in old layers around the soles. I spent a very long time wondering what you'd look like if you lived. The sentence landed quietly. Too quietly. There are truths that scream when they arrive. The dangerous ones don't need to. Lily found her voice first. You should be dead. The man glanced at her, and for one unbearable second I thought I saw warmth. Not affection. Recognition old enough to hurt. I was, he said. A beat. Just not permanently. Daniel swore under his breath. The sound was soft. Human. Useless. I didn't look at him. I kept my eyes on the man in front of me. On the way he stood. Not like an intruder. Not like a rescuer. Like someone arriving late to a meeting that had disappointed him for years. You said your name is what they used after mine stopped being safe to say, I said. He inclined his head slightly. Yes. What does that mean? It means names can be reassigned, he said. Especially when the original becomes unstable. He looked deliberately at my wrist. At the cracked mark. Then back at my face. It means yours was retired. Something inside me reacted to that. Not memory. Not yet. Offense. As if some earlier version of me, the one I was beginning to hate most, could accept mutilation, ritual, blood, and betrayal more easily than replacement. That doesn't answer the question. No, he said. It answers the one you're actually asking. A faint shift of the mouth. Not quite a smile. You want to know if I stole it. The chamber seemed to lean in again. Emma had gone perfectly still beside the broken line of the circle. Lily stood half a step in front of her, but her focus was on the man, not the room. Daniel had not moved. That bothered me more every second. Did you? I asked. The man considered me. Then he said, very softly. No, a pause. You gave it away. The mark convulsed. My vision whitened at the edges. Not enough to drop me. Enough to make the chamber tilt. A fragment came with it. My own hand, slick with rain, pressed against a wall under the city, a voice saying, if I fail, don't let them use it again. Another voice. His voice? Mine? Answering. Then don't fail. And then darkness. Cut clean. I blinked hard and the chamber returned. The man had seen something shift in my face. Of course he had. He'd probably been waiting years for it. You remember that much? He asked. No, his expression sharpened. That answer is getting tired. So is your face. That got a real smile out of him. Small. Ugly. Immediate. And so familiar it made my teeth hurt. There you are, he said. Emma whispered. Don't. I looked at her. Her eyes were fixed on him. Not me. Fear had changed in her face since chapter 7. It wasn't just fear of what the chamber might do. It was fear of recognition. Like she knew him too. Or worse, like something in her did. The man noticed. Of course he noticed everything. His gaze flicked to Emma, and for the first time since he entered the chamber, something vulnerable crossed his face. Gone almost instantly, but not fast enough. You shouldn't be awake this much, he said to her. Emma did not answer. Lily did. She's more awake than any of you planned. His eyes returned to Lily. Yes, he said. That's becoming expensive. My patience broke. Not explosively. More dangerous than that. It hardened. Talk plainly, I said. No, he said. Then, after the slightest pause, but I'll talk honestly. He took another step into the chamber, careful not to cross the broken geometry. I was there the night you interrupted the first transfer. That word again. Interrupted. Not ended. Never ended. I was supposed to die with the rest of the correction team. Instead, I survived just long enough to be useful. He touched the scar at his throat with 2 fingers. They took your name off the record and put it on me. Why? Because names anchor functions. I said nothing. He went on. The mark wasn't supposed to crack back then. It was supposed to complete. When you walked away, you left them with a ritual that had no stable bearer and no clean corpse to blame. He nodded at Daniel without looking at him. So they built a substitute. The chamber fell colder by a degree. Not because I didn't understand the words. Because I did. A substitute, I repeated. Yes. For what? This time the answer came from Daniel. For you. I turned on him so fast the knife almost rose with me. You knew? Daniel met my eyes and, to his credit, did not look away. I knew after, he said. Not before. The man with my name gave a quiet laugh. Still editing himself. Impressive. Lily's voice came out sharp enough to draw blood. Then say it yourself. He did. Of course he did. Men like him don't flinch from truth. They use it as a blade and assume everyone else will thank them for the cut. They needed a bearer the city could obey, he said. Someone the old channels would answer to. Someone who could carry the continuity long enough to keep the lower system open. He looked at me with infuriating calm. You vanished. I remained. So your name became mine. The mark throbbed. And this time Emma flinched too. Same pulse. Same pain. The link between us tightened like a wire pulled through bone. Lily noticed. So did he. His gaze dropped to Emma, then to my wrist, then back to my face. When he spoke again, his tone had changed. Not crueler. Graver. They split you badly, he said. Daniel's jaw hardened. We know. No, the man shook his head once. You know the structure split. That isn't the same thing. He looked at Emma. Tell me what it feels like. Don't talk to her, I said. His eyes snapped back to mine. Instantly. For the first time, something like temper moved under the control. There isn't time for your instincts, he said. If the split is already feeding through both channels, she needs to say it. Emma spoke before I could stop her. Quiet. Pale. Controlled by force. It feels like being watched from the inside. Every face in the chamber changed. Even Daniel's. Especially Daniel's. The man with my name closed his eyes for half a second. Not in sorrow. In confirmation. How long? He asked her. Emma swallowed. Since he broke the center. She nodded toward me without looking. Before that, it was only in pieces. He opened his eyes again. And now the calm in them had sharpened into urgency. Then you don't have days, he said. You have hours. Until what? Lily asked. He looked at me. Not Emma. Me. Until one of them starts remembering with the other one's body. No one spoke. No one could. Some sentences arrive, already holding the throat shut. Emma took one step backward, then stopped, as if even retreat had to be negotiated with the thing inside her now. That can't happen, Lily said. But she no longer sounded certain. That was the trouble with certainty in this story. It only survived until the next room. It already has, he replied. He touched the scar on his throat again. Not self-consciously. Habit. Like men touch rosaries after enough funerals. That's what they made me for. To carry what couldn't remain where it began. He looked at me. This is not your first inheritance. The chamber gave a low, structural groan. Above us, something shifted in the weight of the river. We were running out of time, and everyone in the room knew it. That was when I asked the question that mattered most. What is your name now? For the first time since he entered the chamber, the man hesitated. Just enough. Just once. It mattered. Because men like him don't hesitate over harmless things. Names are less stable than they used to be, he said. That's not what I asked. No, he agreed. It isn't. He watched me for one long, unreadable second. Then, they call me Vale. Not his real name. Too clean. Too chosen. A name worn over damage, not grown from it. He knew I knew that. Didn't care. Or cared too much. Hard to tell. Fine, I said. Vale. The word felt cold in my mouth. What do you want? He answered immediately. Access. To what? To what's left of your original memory. A glance toward the shattered chamber floor. And to the part of the split still trying to decide whether it prefers you or the girl. No, I said. Vale's expression darkened by the smallest degree. You don't understand the leverage your refusal gives the chamber. I don't care. That's obvious. The knife in my hand pulsed once. The mark answered. Emma winced. I saw it. So did Lily. So did Vale. His attention sharpened again. Every time you resist, he said to me, it drives pressure into her. I took one step toward him. Pain lit up through my ribs. Ignored. If you use her to move me again, I'll cut your throat the rest of the way through. Vale smiled. Not because he found it amusing. Because he approved. That was worse. There you are, he said again. Still choosing threats over understanding. His gaze slid briefly to Lily. He always did that first. Lily's face gave nothing away. But I saw her left hand close once at her side. Tiny movement. Massive history. You know him too well, I said. Vale's eyes came back to mine. I know the version of you who wanted the city badly enough to crawl under it. He looked at the chamber around us. At the time, I thought that made you extraordinary. A pause. It turned out it made you common. That hit. Because somewhere under the anger, under the pain, under the old instinct to turn every room into a war, I knew exactly what he meant. Ambition isn't rare. Just expensive. Daniel stepped forward at last. Not enough to interrupt. Enough to signal he was done letting the room belong to Vale. Say what you came to say. Vale looked bored for the first time. You mean the part you hoped I'd leave out? Daniel did not answer. Which, again, was answer enough. Vale nodded once. Then he looked directly at Emma. Not me. Not Lily. Emma. And when he spoke, the entire chamber seemed to tense with him. The first interruption didn't just leave you behind, he said. It used you. Emma's face went white. Lily moved half a step toward her. Too late to soften anything now. Vale continued. You are not only the fracture. A beat. You are the lock. The mark on my wrist exploded with pain. Emma gasped at the same instant, her hand flying to her chest. The shared response tore through both of us so violently my knees almost gave. Not mine alone. Not hers alone. Ours. What does that mean? Lily asked. Her voice was steady by force. Vale answered without taking his eyes off Emma. It means if the chamber resolves through him, it opens. His gaze shifted to me. If it resolves through her, it seals. A beat. If it resolves through both. Don't, Daniel said. Vale ignored him. Of course he did. It remembers the original design. No one asked what that meant. No one wanted the answer badly enough. Which meant we were all going to get it anyway. The chamber had that kind of night. Vale let the silence deepen before he said the last part. Slowly, carefully, as though even he respected the damage it could do. The original design, he said, was never one bearer and one remainder. He looked from me to Emma, then back. It was always father and daughter. The world did not stop. That would have been mercy. It kept going. The river pressed against the walls. The cracks in the floor held their dark current. The flames bent low and hungry in their alcoves. Emma made the smallest sound I'd ever heard from a human being and still recognized instantly as pain. Lily's hand found the back of a broken stone support, fingers digging in hard enough to whiten. Daniel closed his eyes. Not in grief. In surrender. Like this was the truth he had been spending years arranging lies around and had finally run out of architecture. No, I said. It came out flat. Dead. Not disbelief. Rejection. Vale's face did not change. That is why the split destabilized so quickly, he said. That is why the chamber responded to both of you. That is why the mark cracked instead of choosing. He nodded toward Emma. The structure recognized blood. Emma was shaking now. Not slightly. Not invisibly. Openly. She looked at me like she wanted me to say something that could still make the world usable. I had nothing. Nothing good. Nothing clean. Nothing that didn't sound like a lie half a second before it died. Lily found her voice before I did. Quiet. Precise. Terrible. That's why I never told him, she said. I turned to her. Every injury in my body vanished behind that one sentence. You knew? Lily met my eyes. And because she was Lily, because mercy had never survived long in her when truth was involved, she did not soften it. I suspected the night she lived, she said. I knew when she started looking at you like memory instead of fear. A pause. Barely one. I confirmed it years later. Emma stared at her. Not at me. At Lily. As if betrayal had to choose the shape it wanted most. You knew, Emma whispered. Lily's face broke then. Not completely. Enough. Enough to show how much it had cost her to stay standing this long. Yes. The chamber reacted. The dark channels in the floor. Pulsed once, hard, as if truth itself had weight here. The river boomed somewhere beyond the walls. The thing beneath the broken geometry moved in approval. Or hunger. Or both. I looked at Emma. At the terror in her face. At the impossible resemblance in things I had refused to name. The steadiness under pressure. The wrong calm. The way she had never feared me the way children should. Because some part of her had known. Because some part of me had been there before language and after violence and beneath every name they'd ever given me. I hated it. Not her. Never her. The architecture of it. The design. The theft built into it. The way the world had once again tried to turn a child into a mechanism and call that destiny. Vale watched me absorb it. And in the quiet after the reveal, he asked the only question that mattered now. Well, he said, do you finally understand what is at stake? I looked at him. At Daniel. At Lily. At Emma. At the chamber under the river that had once been built for ambition and had now become a cathedral of consequences. Then I said the truest thing I'd said all night. No, a beat. But I understand enough. Vale's gaze sharpened. What does that mean? I lifted the knife. Not toward Emma. Never toward Emma. Toward the chamber. Toward the floor. Toward the design itself. It means, I said, I'm done letting dead men decide what family means. For the first time since he entered. Vale's expression changed in a way I couldn't read. Not surprise. Not approval. Something more dangerous. Recognition. As if that sentence belonged to someone he had once known very well. Maybe someone wearing my face. Emma looked at me like she didn't know whether to believe me. Fair. Lily looked like belief had become too expensive to spend quickly. Daniel looked afraid. That was useful. And deep beneath the chamber, under the split geometry and the old channels and the weight of all unfinished nights, something in the original design began to wake harder. Because names had been spoken, because blood had been recognized, because truth, once dragged into the room, never leaves alone. In Chapter 8, Chapter 9, Blood Recognition.